You don't look like Pam yet.
Yeah, I'm not Pam. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Franchise Business Radio. This is Ken Douglas filling in for Pam Curry, who is on vacation in the sunny beaches of Florida today. So, Franchise Business Radio, we are a platform for bringing franchise professionals and resources together to connect, educate, and collaborate and serve the franchise community. As I said earlier, this is Ken Douglas with Social Joey, and I'll be hosting today as Pam is in sunny Florida. We have a great guest today that represents multiple brands, which we're going to learn about, and I'd like to just give you a couple of industry highlights and welcome Marcia.
Well, thank you, Ken. Thanks for having me.
we're glad you're here. I know that you serve as Vice President of Franchise Recruiting for Outdoor Living Brands, a multi-brand franchise company dedicated to products and services within the outdoor living market, which currently includes leading brands like Archadeck, Outdoor Lighting Perspectives, Mosquito Squad, Renew Crew, a few others. You've been there since January 2018. Why don't you give us a little background on that and then your career up to that point?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. So I've been in franchising since I was 25 years old, which I like to remind everybody was just yesterday.
Definitely last week.
Exactly. Thank you very much. So I'm not new to franchising. I am honored to be part of a wonderful organization like Outdoor Living Brands. I am new to the team, but it's been a fun ride for the last 3 months. We do have 5 brands that just focus in franchising on the outdoor living space. So it's a wonderful opportunity for me to come in franchise recruiting and help people find their way into the right franchise businesses from the years that I've been involved with franchising.
Very good, very good. Tell me a little bit about before that. What was your career like? I know you've been in franchising for a little while, but tell us what you did prior to outdoor living.
Yeah, so it's interesting when you talk to other peers in franchising. You get a lot of happy accidents of how people fell into franchising, and I'm one of those people. When I was 25, I was 4 years out of college and doing like most of us with our business degrees, out working in corporate America, and very quickly figured out that corporate America was not the right fit for me.
It's that entrepreneurial background that you have, I know.
I grew up in a family business, and I found out corporate America is run a little bit differently. So I was looking for a business to purchase, and I didn't know anything about franchising, like most people that aren't involved in our industry. The most I knew about franchising was, the fast food restaurants you drive past on the roads, but I was lucky enough to find a business broker and was looking at businesses for sale, and very happy accident that he turned a page one day to a franchise organization, and I said, wait, what is that? Tell me about that. And he looked and he said, well, it's a franchise. And I said, well, what does that mean? So I was very fortunate to find a wonderful franchise. I was a 25-year-old with a lot of gumption and energy, and had worked in a family business, so I understood how hard you had to work to run a business. But man, if I wouldn't have had the training of a franchise organization behind me, I would have been lost, and I can't imagine what the results would have been.
Interesting. I know that, when a lot of people think of franchising, they think of the standards that you see out there, the McDonald's, the Chick-fil-A's, the Wendy's, those, but there are literally thousands of franchise brands out there, and what's so exciting about them is really most of them, they come with that blueprint, They do, and the franchises that I've been fortunate enough to be involved with are not the franchises that people think of, so it really gives me a perspective in franchise recruiting when I'm working with franchise candidates. I purchased a CertaPro Painters franchise. I was fortunate enough to build it up, sell it successfully. And through a much longer story, I went to work for the franchisors. They were just developing a franchise recruiting department, and they talked me into coming to work for them for 2 years, which turned into 10 years somehow. Not sure how that happened. That made me about 27 at the time.
Exactly. But very fortunate to work with CertaPro Painters and Floor Coverings International, part of the First Service brands. And about 3 years ago, I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to go lead a franchise development department for the first time with a wonderful restoration franchise called PuroClean. And last year, I was looking for a new challenge and very fortunate to meet the leaders of Outdoor Living Brands to move to a leadership position where I'm managing franchise recruiting over 5 brands was a real honor for me.
Nice. Congratulations on the new role,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
we're kind of looking forward to some great growth, as I know your bosses are.
There seems to be that expectation.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about Outdoor Living Brands and how did they get started?
It's a great story, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of stories of how people get started in franchising are happy accidents, and probably half of the beginning of Outdoor Living Brands is one of those happy accidents. Our CEO of Outdoor Living Brands, his name is Chris Grand Prix, and Chris, obviously very well experienced in the banking industry and investment field. About 12 years ago, he was looking for his next investment opportunity, found a franchise called Archadeck Franchises, which is one of our franchise brands, and he began the leadership of that organization. It was actually a little bit of a turnaround for that franchise. They were looking for someone to come in and get it guided into the right direction. And as part of his research to turn that ship in a better direction, he met our Chief Operating Officer, Scott Zide. And Scott was a little less of the happy accident side of franchising, in the fact that when he graduated from college, the very first thing he did is he bought a franchise. So Scott has been in franchising since right out of college as a franchisee for many years. And we were very fortunate that while Scott was running a couple of sandwich franchises, his wife bought an Outdoor Lighting Perspectives franchise, which is one of our franchise brands.
Very nice.
So she built that business up and sold it, but during the time that she had the business, Scott got involved with national support of the franchise owners, and Outdoor Lighting Perspectives really had a strength in operations and coaching and working with franchisees. The home office of that franchise recognized that, and when she sold her franchise, they asked Scott and Aaron to move to their home office city, which at the time was Charlotte, and they went to work for Outdoor Lighting Perspectives, and Scott worked up into a role of president of that organization.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. It's kind of interesting, right, with the perspective of somebody who was in banking and leading in mergers and acquisitions goes into an offshoot in the industry, into a franchising component, and falls in love with it.
You know, it's really interesting, and knowing Chris's personality, it's not a surprise to me that he fell in love with franchising. I think anyone that maybe knew him 20 years ago when he was, heavy in mergers and acquisitions may have thought, how'd this man end up in franchising? But he has such a kind heart and respect and love for working with people, which in franchising, that's all we do is work with people. So it's a wonderful fit for him.
Yesterday at the Southeast Franchise Forum, we had our meeting in Atlanta yesterday, and our speaker was talking about servant leadership. And it was really great. It was a great turnaround story, the CEO of Popeyes, and just the leadership style that she brought to that organization, and what she did to turn them around and to gain the trust of the franchisees, which at the time was lacking. It was another great turnaround story, and you really see success after success with that type
that came from Popeyes. I'm sorry I missed that conversation. It sounds like it was a good one.
It was very good. Well, tell us a little bit more about Archadeck.
Yeah, so when Archadeck and Outdoor Lighting Perspectives originally met, it was 12 years ago with Chris and Scott coming together. Archadeck is North America's leading designer and builder of outdoor living spaces. So if you can think back 40 years ago, a fancy outdoor living space might have been a deck on the back of the house, which is why it's called Archadeck. We're very creative in franchise naming. Of course, today it's grown into screened-in porches, patios, sunrooms, and of course those beautiful outdoor kitchens and outdoor fireplaces, the ability to cook a pizza outside. It's everything that can be constructed on the back of the house is done by Archadeck.
That's outstanding, and I know that there are even some of the HGTV channels that now devote entire shows to decks.
Yes.
And outdoor living spaces.
Yeah, it's an industry that service-based franchising, I always say, is an industry that can't be outsourced. It can't be done by computers. This is real work that will be around forever. It's a nice purchase for someone that wants to come into a franchise organization because we will always need people to do this work in people's backyards.
I know, and the outdoor living spaces have become so important to folks. I know that at our house that we spent a lot of time outside, and, you know, fire pits and all those things that go along with that. It's just a natural meeting place, and when you have guests and company over, it's such a, like I said, a natural meeting space to go out, relax, and just have that conversation instead of having the screen up, working on your phone or doing what people do these days. So it is really a great escape out there.
It is, and it's really become a part of American culture, right? You know, and look, we've always enjoyed our outdoor living spaces, but they used to be kind of a lawn chair on a patio. We've come a long way.
We absolutely have. Now, I know we've talked a little bit about outdoor lighting, and I want to touch on just a few of the other brands that you have, because they all work so well together, and they're so symbiotic, if you will.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Mosquito Squad and how that fits into the overall brand.
Yeah, so, and it really goes back to the story of Chris and Scott meeting each other. You know, Chris was leading Archadeck with the backyard strength in the back of the house. Outdoor Lighting Perspectives is our architectural and landscape lighting company, and they offer energy efficient illumination, beautification, safety, security, and they also do holiday lighting. So it's really any lighting that needs to be done in people's homes. And if you can imagine, that's more of the front of the house. We always work hard to bring it around to the sides and the back, but it's more of a front yard play. And that is originally how Chris and Scott came together, because they saw this symbiotic opportunity to work together with cross-promotional marketing. They were calling on the same customer but on different sides of the house and having trouble breaking through to the other side. So when they came together, they built Outdoor Living Brands with this thought process of, let's lead the outdoor living space. What other brands make sense with that? And that's how the other brands have come into play. Mosquito Squad is a wonderful story. It came right out of the Outdoor Lighting Perspectives franchisees. You know, it's amazing the things as franchisors that we learn from our franchisees. What we learned from the franchisees at Outdoor Lighting Perspectives is that they do demos at night with lights. And for those of us that live in places with mosquitoes, we know what happens when you turn on lights at night.
The mosquitoes come out. Start to feed.
We kept hearing this. The franchisees kept calling in and saying, I love my franchise, but man, I'm getting eaten alive. So the home office, really, this was one of those happy accidents. They start going down this path of trying to figure out what can we do to help our franchise owners enjoy their franchises better. And they ended up down a path where they found these massive misting machines that are used really more in, you know, cattle and horse ranching to keep outdoor pests off of the animals. And these are 5-figure systems. This is not something that a casual homeowner is going to put in their backyard. So they figured out, this was the invention of the mosquito space and franchising. They figured out how to backpack those chemicals and apply them to the foliage around people's yards. And it's not just mosquitoes, right? We have all those other pests in the backyard. And for those of us that have pets, we know about ticks and all the dangerous things that happen in backyards. So that's where Mosquito Squad came from.
So really, is it a full service pest control?
Outdoor pest control.
Okay, outdoor
yes.
Pest control. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, the treatments last 3 weeks, so it's wonderful to be able to go sit out on that beautiful patio in the backyard and enjoy it.
And it is a natural fit to the outdoor living brands. I know, you know, Social Joey is based up in Tennessee, and I know a number of franchisees of Mosquito Squad, and we interact quite often at networking events and things of that nature to share contacts, possible referrals, and things like that. So I know several, and they do a fantastic job, I know, up in the Chattanooga market.
Nice.
Tell us a little bit about Renew Crew and what's the focus there on that particular brand?
Yeah, Renew Crew is one of our newer franchises. We purchased it in 2012 as a small startup from Springfield, Missouri. The business was originally came out of the idea of a deck and fence builder. He kept having customers after he constructed decks and fences ask him to stain their decks and fences. So this wonderful idea came across to create a franchise around staining decks, and he actually called that business Wood Renew.
Okay.
And in 2015, we rebranded it as Renew Crew, and it is a full service clean, seal, and protect of all outdoor surfaces. I always say all outdoor surfaces that don't have paint on them. So
Right.
it's not just decks and fences, it's concrete, it's stonework, brickwork, gutters, metal siding, vinyl siding, all the things that when we come out and first look at our home in the spring and we see that mess from winter, all of that work. And we sell an 18-month service to our customers, so it's that original service, and then we come back and maintain it for them over 18 months' time.
Very nice. I know when that happens at my house, you know, it usually takes the pressure washer and the chemicals to get the house clean, and then, you know, we take it from there and do whatever needs to be done on shutters, fencing, just like you guys take care of.
Yes, yeah, and it just keeps going, right? It's the beauty of being a homeowner.
It does. So really, these brands kind of come together, so a consumer can have one contact, really.
Yes,
To take care of all those outdoor things.
It really is the vision of Outdoor Living Brands. All of the franchise organizations, we all call on the same customer. It's that same homeowner. We like to refer to them as the opposite of DIY. We call it the do-it-for-me customer.
Nice. There's a lot of those out there too.
Yeah, I might be one.
Definitely. Well, I know there's one other that we're kind of leaving off. You know, what can you do in the yard?
Yeah. Excellent.
Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of grass and a lot of other area out there that still needs attention.
There is, and of course, there's always room for opportunity. For us, a homegrown brand that we just started franchising last year is called Conserva Irrigation. And when people hear that, there's always a lot of questions of, well, what do you do? So Conserva Irrigation is, while we do install irrigation systems, it's not the focus of the business. The focus of the business is maintenance and retrofit of sprinkler systems.
Very good.
Yes, and everyone that has a sprinkler system knows that there is constant maintenance with sprinkler systems. And this business was really founded with a good heart of conserving water. It really has a focus on conservation. Excuse me, but at the same time, well, if a homeowner is not really sold on the idea of water conservation, maybe that's not their passion and their focus in life, we all know what that water bill looks like in the summertime. If you're a homeowner with a sprinkler system, your water bill sometimes doubles, sometimes triples, depending on where you live. The work that Conserva Irrigation does, we go into customers' homes, not only maintain the systems, but also bring in technology that reduces the water use by 40, 50, even 60% sometimes.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
It is, and we all know what that does to the water bill. So if
Yeah.
conservation isn't your thing, I know conserving of water bills is.
Yeah, absolutely, because that leads right to the money, and you know, and saving some money.
Absolutely, yeah, and the service, that is a really easy ROI for a homeowner when they look at what they're going to pay us to do the work versus those water bills.
You know, you really have some outstanding brands and services that consumers can really use and dig into. Why don't you talk a little bit about, you know, if somebody wants to become a franchise owner, what can they do? And the other thing I want to talk about after that is, you know, how can they get in touch with you at Outdoor Living Brands as well? So
Yeah.
if you could just talk about maybe that person who's interested in the franchise, loves the outdoors and in the home area.
Yeah, so I definitely have a passion in helping people find the right franchise, and have really been very fortunate over the years to be on both sides of that decision-making process. So
It should give you a unique perspective. You have been one.
yeah, I hope it does. I feel like it does, and I have a real passion for it. And oftentimes, you know, when friends and family and people that you meet in your daily life find out you're in franchising, of course they're immediately interested to understand more about it. And there's always these questions from an outsider of our industry, from their perspective of, how would I even go about learning about franchises, or how can what does it take to become a franchise owner, and how much does that cost, or all the very common questions that I hear. And I always really want to help people understand that every good franchisor is going to take you through a really great mutual due diligence process. So there really is going to be a guide, somebody that sits in a chair like mine, that will really help people explore and understand. But I always tell people, make sure that you meet the team of a franchise organization. Really get to know everyone. Don't just meet one person that you really like. Meet the entire team. Meet the people that will be supporting you and working with you on business planning in your business.
I know another key component of that, and one I've always been interested in, is I like to meet other franchisees.
Absolutely. And whether it's in person, over the phone, spend a day in the field with a franchisee, really get the full picture of everything that you should understand. In franchising, we are governed by the federal government with a lot of disclosure that we have to participate in, and I love that about our industry. It really keeps our industry clean and gives people that want to buy a franchise a real and true story of the metrics and the numbers behind the organization.
The franchise disclosure documents, very important, aren't they?
It is. So there's really good tools out there for people that want to become a franchise owner, and of course, it's a two-way street too. Successful franchise organizations like Outdoor Living Brands, we have over 450 locations. So for us, it is about protecting the brands as well. When we meet someone that we think is a qualified individual to be a franchise owner, we put them through an interview process as well, and we really expect for them to really tell a story about themselves and help us understand who they are so that we can determine if they'll be successful in the business.
It needs to be a fit both ways.
It does.
It's like a marriage.
We use that analogy often.
and the other one that I love to use, and we use it all the time on Franchise Business Radio, is that you're in business for yourself, but you're not in business by yourself.
Yes, yeah.
You've got a blueprint.
I call it a partnership, and I don't know if all franchisors really like that terminology, but it's how I think of it. Who's your franchise partner? And that terminology goes both ways.
And as I look out and I survey the small business landscape, and I'm out in that market quite often, you see businesses pop up all the time. But when you see franchises come along, I know they have that proven successful track record of how to make a business succeed. And that's why I see so many successful franchisees out there versus those independent business owners who are struggling to do it on their own and figure it out. The maps are out there.
Yes.
And people can go find them. And so that's why I've been such a proponent of franchising, because of all the resources that are available to you with that home office. So.
Yeah, one of the analogies I've used since I was a franchise owner myself is instead of inventing the wheel, which anyone that has started a business knows there's a lot of invention. It's slow. It takes a lot of time, uses a lot of capital and resources to get the business up and running. In franchising, we have the wheel, and all you have to do is jump on. It's already spinning. So it really gets you to that positive cash flow, and of course replacing income and then generating even more income and value, and you have an asset that at the back end you can sell.
Absolutely. Well, listen, if someone's interested in some of the brands that we've been talking about, how would they get in touch with you?
Oh, well, I'm always happy to help people get in touch with me and learn more about the business. I think the easiest thing would be, of course, email, which is it's my first initial and last name. So it's MMEAD at outdoorlivingbrands.com.
Very good. What about a phone number? Do you have a phone number? Or?
I do. You can reach me directly at 913-486-5105.
And what about LinkedIn? Would you happen to be out there as well?
Oh, you are sure of it. Absolutely. Yeah. And just for clarification, it's Marcia, because there's a couple ways to spell Marcia.
Very good. Very good. Well, listen, Marcia, thanks. It's been great having you on the show today, and some great insight to Outdoor Living Brands. I know I learned a few things today that I did not know. And I'd kind of like to go into just a couple announcements right now, and I know that you and I are both involved in a couple of these. We had the Southeast Franchise Forum yesterday luncheon, and we do that once a quarter, so I'd like to encourage folks, if they're interested to be part of the franchise community, we do that once a quarter. The next one's coming up in June. You can actually go to Southeast Franchise Forum in Google, and that'll bring you right up to the schedule for the Atlanta Southeast Franchise Forum, and check out our schedule there. Also coming up on April 24th, just a little bit right at little bit less than 2 weeks, on a Tuesday, the Women's Franchise Network in Atlanta is going to be having Dale Cardwell, an award-winning journalist, 6-time Emmy award-winning journalist. He's based in Atlanta. He's actually going to be coming and speaking with us at the City Club of Buckhead. Again, that's a Tuesday evening on April 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. So I just wanted to put that announcement out there, and I've got one more as well. Franchise Consumer Marketing Conference is going to take place on June 19th through June 21st here in Atlanta at the Intercontinental Hotel. And I know the folks at Franchise Update Media do a superb job on that conference. It's one of the best of the year. And it's locally right here in Buckhead in Atlanta. It
is, yeah. If you are involved in franchising and have a need to generate leads for your franchise owners, this is the place to be to hear all the new, there's so many new things with technology and marketing. This is the place to be.
Absolutely. And it just is a fantastic conference. And I know we're just coming off of the International Franchise Association Conference that was in Phoenix just last month in the first part of February. And I just got back from the Multi-User Conference. It was out in Las Vegas last week, again put on by Franchise Update Media. Fantastic job. Some great speakers that they had, George Will and Steve Young.
Wow.
Absolutely did an outstanding job with what they brought. And obviously George Will from the Washington perspective, the news perspective about what's going on. Extremely intelligent, and what a great talk that he gave. And Steve Young, I had no idea how good Steve Young actually is.
Really?
At speaking. It was an absolutely awesome talk that he gave for 45 minutes. Very intelligent man, attorney, not only professional quarterback and Hall of Fame guy, but just...
I had no idea.
Oh, absolutely. In his business background, he's as successful in business as he was on the football field.
Oh. Can I put you on the spot and ask you one takeaway from his presentation?
Accountability.
Accountability.
He gave such an outstanding talk around taking responsibility, and he weaved it into his personal experience on the football field. He was behind Joe Montana, one of the great quarterbacks, and it's like, oh man, when am I going to get in? When am I going to get in? And then when I get in, and he talked about, he threw an interception, actually he threw several interceptions, but every time he did, he was looking, well, you should have blocked this guy, you should have blocked that guy, you didn't run the right route. And he said, when I took personal accountability for that throw, is when I turned it around and when we started having success. Mm-hmm. And that was just the biggest takeaway that he brought. Accountability. It's on you.
That translates a lot into what we do in franchising, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. And that, my friends, is Franchise Business Radio for today. We are a platform for bringing franchise professionals and resources together to connect, educate, collaborate, and serve the franchise community. This is Ken Douglas and Marcia Mead.
Thank you very much for having me.
Glad you were here today. Thanks. Is it red on the camera mean it's off?